and welcome to the Arcane Forge. My name's Jess, and if it's not plainly obvious enough from the everything here, it's Pride Month. So I wanted to combine my massive excitement for Pride this year and my obsession with Dungeons & Dragons to bring you some content throughout the entirety of this month, which is a rainbow-infused, exciting blend of the two. So to kick us off, I thought I could start by transitioning from Dungeons & Dragons to Dungeons & Drag Queens, and include drag queens in our D&D campaigns through the medium of homebrewing a subclass just for bards, and allow them to perform in a totally new way to conjure their magic through the fabulousness of drag. So if we're going to include the art of drag in Dungeons & Dragons through this homebrew, it's really important to know exactly what the art of drag actually is. Drag is a term used to define numerous different types of performers, usually comedians or dancers, musicians, and so on, who dress extravagantly as a woman or a man, or in the case of Crystal Method, sometimes maybe a duck as well, who knows, as a part of their act. Historically, this has been a hyperbolic and exaggerated form of cross-dressing, but as our cultural understanding of gender identity has widened, so too has the art of drag. There are lots of trans, non-binary, or well, any gendered drag queens and kings out there in the full spectrum of the art, who perform their shows in some kind of drag for various different reasons. It has moved on a long way since the days of simply being female impersonation. The long and short of what drag is that fundamentally it's the performance of dressing and acting in a hugely exaggerated and over-the-top way, largely entrenched in queer culture. Performers wear ludicrous amounts of makeup, eye-wateringly extravagant clothes and shoes that are frankly an OSHA violation waiting to happen as a form of self-expression, empowerment or humour, and take on events like gay pride parades, game shows like RuPaul's Drag Race, beauty pageants, carnivals, comedy festivals, and many more, earning them, in my opinion, a worthy spot as not only performers, but adventurers too, in the form of D&D's very own spell-slinging musicians and entertainers of other kinds, the Bard. To understand drag better and why this art form can be used for great magical effect in D&D, it's important to know a little bit about its history and what strength you're drawing upon when you play a drag queen in D&D. There have been drag performers for hundreds of years. The earliest documented drag queen was in 1870, referring to actors dressing in women's clothes solely for entertainment in masquerade balls, where the term grand rag was used and might have been the origin of the term drag. If we're going with men dressing as women on stage though, it's well known that women weren't historically allowed to be actors for most of history, so all of Shakespeare's plays would have been performed by a fully male cast, including all of the female roles. Aristophanes' plays in ancient Greece were performed by a fully male cast, and had many female characters, and so on, so it's very likely that this shared cultural attitude might have inspired drag somewhere down the line. The first person to refer to themselves as a drag queen though, or rather the Queen of Drag, was a man named William Dorsey Swan, a former slave in America born in 1858, who used to host drag events in Washington for other men who were formerly enslaved. His events were often raided by the police, and in 1896 he was falsely convicted of, quote, keeping a disorderly house, which is a euphemism for running a brothel, and sentenced to 10 months in jail. It in fact used to be illegal to be openly gay, and as a result, drag performances became a very opulent act of extremely visible defiance against these hugely prejudicial laws. But drag maintained its relationship with gay culture, and with illegality as a result. There were, in a sense, not only a performance, but a protest against society's backwards views. You can't stop someone from being gay or trans, or anything else really, simply because you don't agree with it or you don't like it. All you can do is make them feel bad about themselves, or worse, make them feel unsafe. It wasn't until the 1940s that drag performances became more popular in the mainstream. Arthur Blake, an American actor, gained so much popularity that he was eventually invited to the White House to perform for President Roosevelt because of his apparently amazing performance of the president's wife, Eleanor. To channel the power of drag is to channel vibrant activism, to be an open defiance of bigots, and to be the tank for abuse, a billboard advertising LGBTQ+ rights, a lightning rod for abuse, and a beacon for everything backwards and queerphobic people despise. Drag queens have been present at most of the major LGBTQ+ protests and riots throughout history that have made real change and betterment for people's lives. They were there at the Cooper Donuts riot in May 1959 in Los Angeles, one of the very first LGBT protests in the US. In 1966, in San Francisco, the Compton's cafeteria riot marked the beginning of transgender activism, at least in the US, and drag queens were right there. 2 years later, in Los Angeles, the LGBTQ community, 2 drag queens were arrested through entrapment and harassment by the LAPD. Most famously, drag queens were right there in the famous Stonewall riots, a series of violent demonstrations against police raids on queer spaces, starting at the Stonewall Inn, located in Greenwich Village in Manhattan. This is such a famous moment that it's largely considered to be the catalyst for the gay liberation movement and the modern fight for queer rights. Drag has been received with a fairly Marmite reception. You either love it or you hate it. Largely, I've not met many people who dislike drag as an art form, but aside from homophobia, in terms of issues that concern trans people and drag in general, it all has to do with the public's perception of trans people and the likelihood that they might confuse what it is to be transgender and a drag performer, or what's more likely, unfortunately, deliberately conflate the two. If it's not obvious enough from having watched my older videos until now, and you perhaps didn't see my statement about coming out, I am a transgender woman. For me, the essentials are that I don't think drag queens are trying to be women, they are a performance. Similarly, when they doff their outfits, when they untuck backstage, when they stop performing, they stop using she, her pronouns. They stop being a woman. I never do. As a transgender woman, I'm not performing. This is me. This is who I am. I'm not trying to derive humour or interest or attention from the way I look or act or dress. I'm just trying to exist in a way that makes me feel comfortable and happy and safe and secure in my own skin. This is my everyday life. But for a drag performer, it is literally that. It's an act, a role that they take on temporarily. It's a job, or what they do for fun, but it's not who they are fundamentally. The long and short of this is, they're not the same thing, so don't worry about that. What I can say is that, as a trans woman myself, I personally love drag. I'm actually a little bit obsessed with it, and I see it as a community of strong, vocal advocates for the LGBTQ+ rights, and to me it's an art form that I'm proud to enjoy. The popularity of drag and the excitement, the performance of it all, draws people in, and I think it's a great gateway to teach people about the lives and experiences of LGBTQ+ people. It's important to hear from people who are thriving and fighting for this community how much of a struggle it is to just exist and to make a career as a queer person. And I think that a lot of drag performances can give these people a more public voice to those who wouldn't normally have taken the time to learn about us and what our lives are like. So we've talked about what drag is, what drag isn't, its history, fundamentally the energy that you're channeling if you are a drag performer in D&D as a bard. So how do we turn that into a subclass? Well, thankfully I have done just that. I'll leave a link down below in the description box to where you can get a hold of this, but it's absolutely free if you want to use it, but I had plenty of fun with this. I said that many bards focus on charisma as their main conduit for enchanting performances, but students of the drag arts know that it takes charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent to truly muster the most sensational of shows. Bards of the College of Drag draw on hyperbolic femininity or masculinity, exaggerated makeup, scathing comedic routines, beauty, proportionizing, and traditionally, although not exclusively, impressive displays of cross-dressing, alongside the music that bards are better known for to aid their allies, destroy their foes, and to decide who should chantez and who should sashay away. Bard subclasses give you advantages changes at 3rd level, at 6th level, and then again at 14th. So I wanted to squeeze in as many drag-based references as I possibly could into this subclass with those few pointers, and I think I did alright. So starting when you pick this subclass, I said that you get a rule called reading is fundamental. Reading in drag terminology is the art of ritual insult, and as a result of your familiarity with this practice, you are uniquely proficient at delivering particularly cutting verbal assassinations. Whenever you cast the vicious mockery spell, you can enchant your words with glamorous devastation by expending one of your bardic inspiration dice. The psychic damage from the spell increases by an amount equal to your bardic inspiration die. You may decide to use this feature before or after you discover whether the creature the spell is cast upon fails their wisdom saving throw or not. Next, at 3rd level, I said that you get an ability called Lip Sync for Your Life, a staple among the drag community. I said that whenever you give someone bardic inspiration, you can perform an extravagant lip sync to the tune of the Song of Survival to create a tiny mote of life energy which protects people. A creature protected by this mote has advantage on life versus death saving throws within the next 10 minutes. So you may not be lip syncing for your life in particular, but you're definitely lip syncing for somebody's. At 6th level, you get an ability called Shantae You Stay or Sashay Away. I said that at 6th level you learn 2 spells, Fear and Hold Person, if you don't know them already. Using this feature, you may cast either of these spells as if they were both 3rd level without expending a spell slot. Once you cast one of these spells with this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long or short rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 3rd level or higher to use this feature again. Finally, as the ultimate reference of drag, and a particular dance move that I'm obsessed with because it looks so hideously dangerous, I feel for these people's entire bodies when they do it, at level 14 I gave you an ability called Death Drop, which says that you may perform the most devastating dance move in all of drag, the Death Drop. This iconic move requires you to fall supine on the ground with one leg extended straight and the other bent at the knee. The crushing force of this move, combined with magical energy that you enchant within it, cause a cataclysmic earth tremor in the form of the Earthquake spell, an 8th level spell mind you. This spell is centered on yourself the moment you make impact with the ground. Up to 6 allies of your choosing have advantage on saving throws to resist the effects of this spell, and you only get to use this once per long rest, DMs will be thankful to hear. But I thought that helped to include the support that drag queens can give on the front lines of almost all LGBTQ protests, the devastating dance moves, the wit and intelligence that it requires to read, the charisma and dexterity that it takes to not only do devastating dance moves but also to lip sync flawlessly to various songs and to receive benefits from that might help your party survive. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I absolutely loved getting to do this one. Not only was it really fascinating to learn about the history, which I totally didn't really know. I didn't know how far back drag has been getting done and how important it is to this community. I knew that it was some kind of important, but I didn't know it was that important. And I love watching it. I love the energy, the enthusiasm and life that it gives people. And I hope that as a bard you can bring some of that life to the rest of your party. I really hope you enjoy this subclass. I really hope you get to use it. If you do create a drag queen or a drag king, please let me know, because I would love to hear about their adventures in your D&D campaign world. I personally have used 2 drag queens in my campaigns who were called Divination and Thaumaturgy, who were great fun. They were magical tailors in my campaign and helped to enchant clothing and fabric and make fabulous outfits for my players. I will definitely be using them again, now with these rules. If you enjoyed this video or you want to support the channel in a very proactive way, I'll leave a link down below to my Patreon where you can help me to make these videos, and stay tuned for more Pride content throughout this entire month. I've got absolutely tons of stuff I want to share with you, and this is just the first. Until next time, happy monster hunting, happy Pride, stay safe, and you are valid. Bye.